I'm Maddie Lee, joined by Joe Mussatto after the Thunder's 113-101 win over the Denver Nuggets. Thunder starting the unofficial second half off strong, one game in, which, they had a really rough second half last season, so at least this is a step in the right direction right out of the All-Star break.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to ask for a better win coming out of the All-Star break than beating the Nuggets, one of the best teams in the West. You could sort of sense that both teams were coming out of the All-Star break early on, kind of a sluggish start offensively for both teams. But then that fourth quarter, the Thunder scored 35 points. Chris Paul led with 29 points, and Steven Adams had a double-double, a big double-double with 19 points and 17 rebounds. So I really thought Chris Paul and Steven Adams really carried the Thunder today.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about a slow start. Chris Paul especially had a slow start. He didn't score until a little bit into the second quarter, and then, like you said, rattled off those 29 points, scored two very key baskets before the end of that first half to tie the game back up. The Thunder had led by as many as 10 points in that first half and then fell behind again, and so needed Chris Paul to pull them back in. And then Steven Adams had a big matchup with Nikola Jokic, who obviously has been carrying the Nuggets all year, and tonight was no different.
Yeah, I mean, Jokic was dominant, and the Thunder still managed to get this win. Jokic was 12 of 15. He had 32 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and that's like a pretty normal Nikola Jokic stat line at this point. So, I mean, he's obviously an all-star and one of the best. Mike Malone, before the game, called him the best center in the league, and I think that's a day after Joel Embiid called himself the best center in the league, so maybe a little back and forth right there. But, it's tough to say that either Thunder center really defended him well because he had such a big night. But, they threw different looks at him with Steven Adams being, more suited to push him around and be physical down there. But Nerlens Noel, Billy Donovan liked what he did and said that he wanted to match up Adams' minutes with Jokic. But Jokic played 9 minutes in the first quarter. Steven Adams isn't really suited to do that, and then they had to turn to Noel.
Yeah, Noel's matched up with him a surprising amount. He also fouled a bunch, which is because of that. He's just physically overpowered by Jokic, but was able to use some of his quickness on the offensive end to get around him. But that fouling really limited him in terms of the whole game. He ended up with 5 fouls, so a little foul trouble, but Thunder able to limit the rest of the group. While they had a very balanced scoring effort, 7 guys scoring in double digits, which the Thunder's done now 5 times this season, which is the most that has ever happened in Thunder history.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty remarkable that we keep talking about the balanced scoring, and it happened again tonight with all of those guys in double digits, and it didn't look like a game, at least in the first quarter, that they would get to that point because, 4 of the 5 starters, I mean, really all of the starters struggled in the first quarter. 4 of them struggled throughout that first half, and the offense just kept getting a little bit better before that fourth quarter explosion. So more balanced scoring for the Thunder.
Yeah, but the Thunder was able to come out and turn the ball over and get out on the break some. Lou Dort had some of those with some pretty exciting dunks from him. So Thunder able to turn it around, kind of push the pace, which we don't see them doing often, with a, kind of slower, more ball movement heavy team.
Yeah, the amount of turnovers that the Thunder were able to force was one of the most impressive aspects. Like, even Steven Adams had 4 steals, and you wouldn't expect that. Dort was really good and disruptive. He had that, one kind of back-to-back where I don't think the Thunder got any points out of it, but he had 2 steals and basically 2 straight possessions. So, active defensively, and this was one of the Thunder's better wins this year. They've only the second time they've played the Nuggets. They get them at home after the All-Star break, and like we said at the beginning, to start the unofficial second half, really the final third, with a win like this has got to be encouraging.
Yep. So Thunder will continue on that route with another home game, and then they head on the road. But first, enjoy post-game video from
Steven Adams, Chris Paul,
and Jeremy Grant.